Ms. Uwaje is an entrepreneur and strategically driven executive with experience as a CEO, founder, and non-executive director of private, listed, and public sector organizations. Nkemdilim is a seasoned information technology professional with over 15 years of cross-sector industry experience. At home in technology from childhood, Nkemdilim is walking in her father's footsteps as a second-generation Nigerian information technology expert. Please, round of applause. I'm not done with her intro, but please clap. She has designed and led strategy and implementation across Africa, resulting in enhanced customer experience, customer acquisition, and bottom-line growth. Currently CEO of Future Software Resources Limited, aka FutureSoft, one of Nigeria's leading digital and technology solutions company, providing a broad range of solutions for scaling an Africa enterprise. Nkemdilim has been recognized as Obama Africa Leader, Forbes Top 10 Female Tech Founders in Africa, Global Digital Woman Top 10 Most Inspiring Women in Africa, Lioness of Africa, Top 100 Women and Ventures Africa, 42 Most Innovative Africans. Your accolades precede you, madam. Thank you for joining us today and moderating the session.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I've just learned that two of our panelists are not here. But I think that the two that are here are very able and are going to, just knock it out of the park and answer all the questions that I have. All right, so I would like to call to this stage my first and my second panelist. So my first panelist is Adia Soho. She is the first ever female Chief Marketing Officer of MTN Nigeria, a multinational telecommunications company that operates in many African and Asian countries. She's also a business expert who has acquired a lot of experience working in different capacities at different companies, and she's also my friend. Then we have my second esteemed panelist, Mr. Emeka Okeke. He's the Managing Partner and Chief Executive Officer at Media Fuse Densu Holdco Limited, an executive in the technology industry with a background in software development. His visionary leadership and ability to identify emerging trends have shaped innovative projects and driven success. Or do you want to sit in the middle? We're very inclusive. Do you want to sit in the middle? Yes, for the optics, you will sit in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Normally it's the woman that will be the only one on the stage, and she will be there in the middle. So we're going to reverse roles a little bit. All right. So, our topic today is brand partnerships and collaborations, and sort of focusing on strengthening the creative ecosystem. And I think the two panels that came before us have actually already laid a really good foundation in terms of talking to the different elements that are required to actually build this ecosystem of the creative industry. And I'm going to start with Adia. So you've been the CMO of MTN for like 2 years now, right? Okay. And I just want to know, can you share some insights from your experience on how brand partnerships can really just strengthen the creative ecosystem and create value for both creatives and also obviously the brand that they partner with? If you have some sort of key examples where you can actually showcase that value creation, that would be great.
I'll do my best. But I think one of the things brands do is they give the industry work, right? I think that sometimes brands get caught between hiring local versus international talent. And I'll mention something that happened earlier on this year, where particularly for voice talent, there was new regulation that came down that mandated that companies use a predominant percentage of voice-over artists that are Nigerian with Nigerian artists, right? Because I think sometimes when you have a multinational brand, or being Nigerian as we are, we like to go and find other people's accents to sell our products, right? So I think that one thing that brands do that directly supports the industries is we can create work.
Fantastic. Emeka, do you want to maybe hop on that question as well and just, tell us what you think brand partnerships can actually do? And obviously you're more on the agency side, right? So you're kind of like the middleman that makes it all happen, right? Because a lot of creatives oftentimes can't actually approach brands directly or don't know how to do that.
It doesn't stop them though.
Okay. Thanks, Nkem. And first of all, let me thank the lady of the house, Chichi, for putting this together and giving my industry and my clients opportunity to speak on this subject, on We Create, to be on the platform. I'm so grateful for that. As the saying goes, that if you want to go alone, if you want to go fast, you can go alone. And if you want to go far, you have to go together. And so talking about partnership and brand partnership with a creative ecosystem, especially the way it relates to advertising, it will be important to note that it is unraveling, it has unraveled, it will continue to unravel. And what do I mean by this? Partnership in the creative ecosystem as it relates to brands could happen at the horizontal level, where you have brands partnering with each other to approach the creative. And then you have it still on the horizontal side, whereby the creative ecosystem has unpacked itself so much so that creativity can no longer be restricted to organizations designated as creative agencies, in the sense that beyond the art of thinking through the story, you now have technology playing a part in creativity. You have data playing big part in creativity. You have insight playing in part in creativity. You have things like copy, assuming hybrid forms to content writing from copywriting. And so on those two levels, you have partnerships happening, individual. Then you have the vertical connection, whereby it's teaming up and then coming down to the creative ecosystem, and then the partnership happens. How do brands, I'm sure Adia would understand that we need their money anyway to unleash the power that exists within the creative ecosystem. But beyond the cash and the money, to do that is a situation whereby you have also talents. You have also real new talents coming up that you just can't take money to go and buy. And you need that collaboration that happens within the creative ecosystem to have access to it. And so that's what it is for us in the industry. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I think we can, use the same format that we had earlier, right? So brands bring money, right? But brands also bring expertise and talent to the table. And, I think one of the other things that brands also do is actually help amplify reach, right? And, you talked about data and, sort of using data to measure. And I think Obiasika mentioned it earlier as well. So I want to know from you as well, how do you, what are the things that you use as your agency to actually measure success, right? And I know you do a lot of work around sustainability. So how do you actually, sort of measure in the short term, I guess, the key metrics, but then also in the long term, that sustainability impact?
Yeah. Okay. That's an interesting question. It takes two to tango, as I say. Before we measure success, particularly with brands, you have the brands and the clients on the other side. that need to speak and align goals in terms of what the brand wants to achieve, either in the short term or in the long term. And having aligned that is to have a sense of alignment of what will success look like if we go into this space. And so quite a good number of metrics come to mind, and that surrounds the saliency that is agreed. You've got, it could be awareness depending on the life stage of the particular brand or the product you want to launch. Do you want to use awareness? Do you want to use top of mind awareness? But beyond that, do you want to build emotional connection with the brand as you go along? And then this is tracked over time. But when it comes to creative as it is, I just want to point out something. Brands would always make mistake of finding metrics to measure creative value. That is not the case. You know, somebody said at the first stage, can I see the Excel sheet? Show me the numbers. And so brands have had the misconception that creative immediately would have to drive sales. That's not so. That's not correct. Because of so many challenges we have in the marketplace, and then because brands are also not willing to invest in sophisticated tools that will be able to ascribe values from creative effort to the brands, like econometric models and so forth, so on. So creatives work long time. You have to be patient to invest. You have to be clear in terms of what you want to get at the end of the day. Are you building your brand, or do you want to build a max, go to town and sell your products and get out? Or are you in need for a long race that at the end of the day, you're not just pulling people to yourself, so you're having loyalists, you're having big brand fandom at the end of the day. So a lot of things go into it, but what is important is that both the creative team and the brand custodians come into alignment. Some brands have even gone a step further to have creative councils, and in the creative councils, you've got different talents in the house. It's no longer creative council that have two creative agencies come with a client. You have data engineers, you have prediction modeling people, you have statisticians in the house, you have insight experts, and so forth, so on. All these make up the creative council. And then you think about the technology that we use to mine the masses of data out there. They say that Africa is data dark, but I tell you, Africa is not data dark. It is for the lack of infrastructure, the lack of money to invest in DMPs that could gather all of these pieces together and make a sense of it all. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, that was so many different levels. So we're going to try and unpack some of that. And I'd like to go to Adia. So, you know, I mean, he talked about, you know, brands are just about like, how does this affect my bottom line? How am I going to sell more products? You know, in your case, how do I get more subscribers, and how do I drive entrenchment so that they spend all their money, you know, on your network? So how do you select the right type of partnerships, and, you know, what are the key things that you're looking at in terms of driving long-term value for you as a company?
Okay, so I'll come to your question shortly, because Mr. Okeke said so much that needs to be like discussed, right? So, you know, for every CMO, there's a CFO that she has to get money from. You know, sometimes I see the proposals I get and I'm like, people, come on, work with me to make a case, right? And it's very difficult for the creative industry first needs to recognize that we have to explain ourselves to people that are outside the space. Now, everybody consumes marketing, and then because of that, they assume they can create it. So it is a space that is not given the respect it should get, right? But you know, but it's common, right? When you conflate simple with easy. So we need to remember that people don't necessarily see the immediate impact of creativity on their lives, even though creativity shapes who we are. Each of us is wearing clothing here that has been shaped by a campaign that's been driven by a marketing organization, whether we like it or not. But you know, by the time you're wearing the clothing, you don't even know where the influence came from, when it happened, and why. It may have been 10 years ago, it may have been 10 minutes ago, right? But because, you know, that is the very nature of what we do, we have to be very, very conscious and not resistant, right? when people outside the space, the CFOs, the CEOs, the people that are not marketing people historically, because most company CEOs are actually engineers, you have to explain these things to them in a quantifiable manner. We are also now in a space where we are moving from what marketing used to be to performance marketing. This is what Google and Facebook have changed. Right? And what I find is that non-marketing people gravitate towards performance marketing because that delivers numbers that they can understand. So we have to recognize that there is a proof that we have to give to people outside of our space. We can't get away with, come and give me money. Right? And then when you're speaking to a brand like MTN, that's 22 years in the game. I don't need awareness from you. There are 80 million people carrying MTN phones every day. Do you understand? So awareness can't be the conversation. You talked about, assessing the brand for where it is. So lots of people still come to me with an awareness argument, and I'm like, people, let's work a little bit harder here, right? To actually ask yourself, what awareness are you giving MTN? What? Do you understand? So for me, it's like, but at the same time, MTN has subsidiaries that are new. MTN has 5G that is new. Fixed broadband is new. So how does, your collaboration support those things? If it's awareness you can bring, no problem. But how can you do that for the sub-brands, right? For under the umbrella of MTN Nigeria? Or how do you help us reshape data experiences? Like, for instance, we just did a collaboration with a sports entity the other day. And I sort of asked people, I said, how many of you watched Divine Oduduru say, I never experienced it on social media on your phone? Almost everybody in their room did that. So for me, bring me collaborations that can do that. Bring me collaborations that change the way we watch sports. Then I don't need to ask anybody to buy data. Do you understand? Because they want to see what the next Divine Oduduru is going to say or do so that they can be part of these conversations. So I think the work for those of us in the room is we need to learn to step up our arguments. Okay, so that when you go to a brand, you've thought about what they need and you are able to give it to them. And unfortunately, our awareness isn't enough these days.
So, thank you. And I think that's a really important point, right? To understand where is this brand on their journey, right? What can I actually bring to the table that gives value as opposed to just coming with open hands and saying, please help me, right? So what are the key, what would you look at if someone came with a proposal? What would be those, key things that you're looking to see in that proposal?
I mean, it's kind of like when you're making friends with somebody. Do you understand? Do we like the same things? Are we going to the same parties? Do you understand? Do we shop at the same places? You have to look at the proposition and the alignment, right? And then I think with brands, every few years you may refresh the themes that you associate with, right? So I think, in MTN right now, one of the things we're looking at is developmental sports. Why? Because it cuts across multiple age groups in Nigeria. So we're doing athletics, but predominantly football. I mean, if anything, I think more than uniting around our Nigerianness, we unite around football. So we're looking at football at every level: university, local leagues, international leagues, EPL, and so on and so forth. So I think we must first find commonality first, right? And then, where is the brand at with where your collaborative opportunity is going to potentially take us, right? And then take it from there. Like, there are some areas that, MTN just won't touch, right? Just because it's a tough conversation for us to have, with our users, right? And MTN no longer aligns with individual clubs. We align at league level. Again, because we need to cater to the diversity, right, of the customers that we have. Because if we side with Arsenal, what happens to the Man U fans and the Chelsea fans? It doesn't work, right? So these are the modalities that one, looks at. So sometimes when I see, very interesting proposals, I start thinking, okay, if I say no to this person, it will seem like I'm wicked, but you're seeing what we talk about, you're seeing what we align with, and this is completely different.
So, Emeka, how do you, help, creatives that you want to introduce to brands actually work on that alignment so that the value proposition is clear and that the value proposition actually also resonates with the brand that is on the receiving end?
Okay. I did start with talking about openness from both sides, both the brands and the creative ecosystem. Openness is very key. And I say it again, if the brief is just the one that says, land me XYZ number of sales for this product, and there are no clear benchmarks from the client. I just came out of a pitch last week from a global client who said about Nigeria, they've been doing business here for about 4 or 5 years. It simply says, I want 50% awareness. But by the way, I am selling so much like MTN that everybody knows me. And I asked, a member of my team asked a simple question. What is your current awareness level? So I know the top up, the incremental value. He said, I just want to be number one. And we'll say number one is currently doing 82%. All right? So if number one comes to me to say I want 90%, I know they need 7% incremental value. And so for me to pigeonhole and say, you're going to spend X, Y, Z, I need to know where you're coming from. I'm trying to figure it out. Now, that comes crashing. But that openness is key. All right? And beyond the numbers game, even the principles, the 4 Ps in marketing, traditional 4 Ps in marketing has shifted a lot. It has now 2 cousins. It's gone beyond your price, beyond your product, beyond your promotion, and the other one, to now CXM and CRM. Customer experience is key. All right? Out of the customer experience, all right, you begin to find out things like cutting across every bit, the performance marketing. The performance marketing is only a very short thing, focusing essentially on some aspects of the social media. The campaign is short, the sale is short, the attention is short, your audience is very narrow. But again, overlaying on top of this, it's not just awareness, it's about telling the story about either your product that you actually want to sell or the brand itself that you want to sell. If people don't understand and the story you're telling about the brand will not resonate with them in a very creative manner, how are you going to sell? It's not sustainable. It's like selling on promotion. You know, when a lot of companies will come into this market and they start their campaign and say, look, all they hear is that we are 200 million people. And then they begin to calculate and fantasize that with 200 million people, if I have a 50 million subscription, forgetting that today, it will take me, if I want to enter for an award like the Cannes, with a country as small as Estonia, whose currency is maybe 1-to-1 with the dollar or with the euro, I would need to walk 1,050 times to earn $1,000 to be able to enter for one work. And so the clients will need to be bold enough also to try creativity and trust their creative partners and bring the counsel and then come up. There's this popular saying that when it is a pitch, the budget is like a fat cow. And then when the chips are down, it's a sick goat. But that's the fact. And so it takes a whole lot of collaboration and guts on the 2 sides. We've seen situations just this year, an agency out of Nigeria, a creative agency, put our flag out there in Cannes and won the Cannes Creative Award for the first time. And across, and you could say that is on the CSR. Also this year, from Densu Creative, our house, we had the first Nigerian brand trophy shortlisted for Cannes Award ever since 70 years of Cannes. All right? So a lot of things are happening, and those clients trusted the creative teams and they opened it up and things are happening. So conversely, we need both parties. Clients, I tell you again, have a lot to bring to this party. They have a lot of information in terms of market insights. But ask them to share the insight, even the limited. They tell you, no, when we win the pitch. But I don't blame them because of confidentiality, and that's where you talk about, okay, contract compliance. Again, how do you deal with it? So it's a never-ending conversation, all right? But we all need this collaboration to move our creative act up. We need to recognize that the industry is moving, new talents are coming. Before, what are we talking about today? If you go to ACON, you want to take membership. If you didn't study mass communication or any of the creative arts or marketing, they're not going to give you a bow, take a bow. So what do you say to prompt engineers? What do you say to people who navigate the large language models through the use of AI? What do you say to people who pilot the performance marketing? Are they not qualified? I'm always having conversation with people, the regulatory bodies, and say, look, you guys are still too old-fashioned. You need to open up the curriculum to accommodate, otherwise we keep losing the cheese to people outside. So that's my thinking. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Adia looks like she wants to respond. Yes.
I'm going to push back gently in a friendly
No,
manner.
please don't.
So I'm going to speak to the Gen Xers in the room. Also, I'll wait first. I need your voice, please. We're going to do a call and response here, right? So I'm going to say something, and I need you to say the rest of the line back. So forgive me, I have a bit of a cough. Omo, super blue, Omo. How many jingles? Wait now, creative agencies. How many jingles are we singing like that now? Right? Well, hold on. It's a question, right? Okay, you were probably in the space.
MTN. Everywhere you go.
Wait. Fine, touche. But my point is, the discussion, the discourse has gotten into this nickel and diming because people don't feel the creative work like they did before. MTN can't be the only person having these memorable jingles and songs. We can't be, we shouldn't be. Right? But in the 80s, that heyday of advertising in Nigeria, I don't know if we have ever gone back there. I don't know if we've gotten close. Right? So for me, if we want to quiet the performance marketing, is only a small part, just give people things they can feel. Right? And that's the challenge, right? And to go to Cannes, right? To go to all these places where we can win awards, we need to go with our authentic stories. And the question we all should be asking ourselves, and I'm not saying yes or no, is how authentic are the stories we are telling right now? Because even we here, we react to the most authentic of those stories, but that's not what makes it to the ads. Right? But so for me, I think the only way I see to keep it quiet, because there's to argue with finance people and engineers, it's not just leave it. Right? But I think we need to really, really start tapping into, forget whether it's a sick goat or a blah, blah, blah. If people feel, they feel. And let's get back to that authenticity, and let's get back to letting people feel the work of the creative sector here. Then these arguments will die down.
So how do you think brands can support that, right? How do you think that brands can...
We remain ready to pay when things are delivered. It's not, I mean, it's...
We will do fat cow budget.
I don't know about that. Dollar is 1,000, please. So these are also the other macroeconomic pressures, right? Because it's a... I can't promise you that the asks from brands are ever going to get easier, because the pressures are not exactly lifting on brands either. You know what I mean? They are only increasing. So, the reason I'm saying, we need to change the argument is and go back to feelings is important, because if we are going to count Naira and Kobo, we hope that this government delivers us from where we are right now. Because if we stay on this trajectory, nothing is going to move. And you can't counter logic, and in numeric argument without, we have to change the argument.
Yeah. Okay. See, I told you this two-man panel, or two-woman and man panel will deliver. So we have 5 more minutes. I'm going to ask each of you one question. So earlier we talked a little bit about talent development within the space, right? And there's a lot of initiatives that the first panel talked about that they are doing in terms of creating spaces for creatives and training them and making equipment, available and things like that. So
we have a lot of creative people within that industry. I mean, like, we've done a lot of brainstorming sessions, we've given great ideas, but it always seems like, I don't know whether he's the husband or the wife, he's always too biased to go to a certain direction. So how do we sort of remove that biasness? So to speaking to your audience.
I feel like this is where there's probably some quotes that Google will give us about ideas. Boss, this thing happens in every industry, okay? It happens when you're building a software product. There are 8 million features you want to build, but you have to focus and pick one. But I know that especially, when you're young and you're in the creative industry, you're like really, 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 really attached to your ideas. But, I will just, accept a hug from here. You have to just let them go, boss. Just let them go. Let them go.
okay.
I'm not trying to be wicked. I'm telling you the truth.
Adia, crushing dreams.
Yeah,
Since 1982.
Yes, it's been that long.
Emeka wants to add to that.
Coincidentally, the client you mentioned, and so permit my bias, is my client as well, in one of our creative agencies, which is Densu Creative. And I need to clear the fact that Netflix came into this market with a true spirit of partnership with a creative team. And that partnership provided them with a lot of insights. They could have come into the country with what we call global culture. I don't think there's an exclusively global culture. There is culture that travels around, and then you have culture that is peculiar to particular markets. So Netflix, if you look at the story and the responses from their competitors like Amazon, all right, are trying to play catch up with Netflix in this market. The story and the partnership with the creative agency made Netflix to explore the authentic African story. We Nigerians, we like to tell our story in a very long manner and the way that it suits us. If you look at the commercials they produced, if you look at the scenes, if you look at the people they visited, it's very authentic. And that material had won a lot of awards. And therefore, in terms of biases, I think they are picking what the people are interested in without any particular bias. And of course, without being too direct, you put your money where your mouth is at the end of the day. So there's no any particular bias. I can say that for free. And so there's the other question.
Yeah. So the other question
The
was about
creative training development.
Exactly. And
development.
The role of, I guess, universities and why universities are still not able to churn out talent that is
I think it is, in my view, and that is my view, purely my view, is that it has to do with the policy direction of our education from top to down, if you ask me. And why do I say so? If you go to some markets, they have what they call NVQs, National Vocation Qualifications. And at the industry level, also, and I want to say this, there's a lot to say, but I'm watching her time. We started from a point whereby all agencies, all skills were together at the traditional level. Now things have changed. New skill sets are emerging. Engineers are becoming prompt engineers. Data analysts and mathematicians are coming in. Philosophers and social scientists are part of the prediction model and art. Okay? So the basics of the core professions will still be relevant. But how do we begin to provide some sort of mentorship to these young people in terms of what they will be able to do with that foundation into other areas becomes very important. So from creative ecosystem working together broke up into silos, and now we're coming back together whereby there are no poor cousins and there are no bigger cousins. So it's simply symbiotic relationship that everybody has something to put in. And the clients, to Adia's point, that if they spend their money, all they're asking for is value. But the clients would also be able to recognize that with the new skill sets and talents, the young people are also benchmarking the opportunity cost. If I drop my talent here to do this work for you, how much are you going to pay me? Versus if I sit in my house and deliver the same service online to somebody who appreciates what I'm doing, it's going to pay much more and earn. And so the conversation continues. So it has to come down from government policy to shape the educational curriculum to fit into what the market is looking for. You have boot camps, company-sponsored boot camps. And what are the boot camps all over maybe UK, Europe, America, all about? The boot camps gather these children, gather these fresh graduates, all the talents, and begin to bring people through job fairs, employers, to say, this is what we need, and this is how we can tweak what you have today to fit into what we're looking for. So it should be all hands on deck. The government, the people who design the educational curriculum, the creative ecosystem themselves, as well as the clients. That's what I want to say here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, panel number 4. Three.
Excuse my ignorance, but in regards to, because training is something very important and dear to me, and I know the importance of it, and being introduced to it at a very early age. You know, I need to create that love and passion for a career that demands that dedication. So is there a structure outside of the university, which might be a harder structure to try to infiltrate? Are there conservatories? Are there actors programs, private institutions, and maybe I'm ignorant of it, in which people know that has set the structure of success, in which these 3 conservatories are the main ones that actors, performers, technicians, all can come and there get certificates, have yearly showcases where you invite people out to see their work. And that is something that can be done outside of the vein of a huge institution. So I'm wondering, does this exist?
So I actually don't think the universities are that hard to penetrate. I think somebody just needs to ask, right? So MTN, for instance, has a journalism program with LBS. We've had a music program with Muzon Center for years. And I've worked with another company that has an engineering program with ABU in Zaria. Somebody just has to ask. So actually, I don't even think it's got anything to do with the government. Leave the government alone. Just go to the university.
Adia,
see all these your uncles and aunties here in front.
Adia, Emeka, Nkemdilim, thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Can we just wait for a picture? Please, another round of applause for a very engaging session.
See, this is bribery and corruption.
Very, very insightful. Please, another round of applause.